All right. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our next podcast episode for LPC. I'm very excited, very honored, and just so touched for today's episode because I'm joined with a very special guest who I like to call not just a colleague, but a friend, little cousin, sister. It's such an honor to work alongside you at LPC and in all things activism and Indigenous leadership. My dear friends and colleagues, for those of you that are tuning in to today's episode is with Samantha Jack, friend and colleague of mine at LPC, and in all things great Indigenous leadership work. And today our topic is learning about the Friendship Center and the movement for Friendship Centers, how it came to be, the value and the importance of Friendship Centers to the urban Indigenous community today. So welcome, Samantha Jack. Welcome to our podcast episode. The first question I have, and this is a question I ask all of our guests to do, would you begin by, introducing yourself in your good way?
Mm-hmm. Klama Samantha Jack. Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Jack and I come from Nuu-chah-nulth Yale First Nations, specifically from Nuu-chah-nulth Yale, which is also known as Gold River, and I also come from Ruby Creek Reserve number 2, which is just before Hope, but on the north side of the Fraser River. So I'm really happy and honored to be able to be here very close to the Katzie territory with my Katzie brother, cousin, relative here. But yeah, I work with LPC as a facilitator and consultant, and just super, super honored to be here and to share more about the Friendship Center movement.
Haichka Siam. And the honor is all ours. The second question I have for you, Sam, is a question we ask all of our guests who are on this podcast, and that's just to demonstrate, the incredible value of relationships and being in good working relations with Indigenous peoples. So the question I ask is, how did we come to know each other? How did we come to meet?
If I remember the story that you shared about how we met was actually at one of our Indigenous advisory tables at KPU. And I remember I was feeling particularly passionate about something in one of our meetings. And the way you share it, where you looked behind everyone, is like, who is that? Mm-hmm. And then we connected after that. And your position with Indigenous Student Services as manager. I was working as a host in the Gathering Place. Shout out to the Gathering Place. Mm-hmm. And after you left, it was very sad, but I was determined to kind of stick around. And you offered me my first opportunity to do a very large facilitation at the place where I was born, at the Women's Hospital in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I feel like the rest is history. We were kind of just like in it to win it. Yes.
And we've been working alongside each other ever since then. And that was like, oh my gosh, 8 years ago, 8 years ago when we started. And I'll never forget that day because did not know who you were. This is a very large Indigenous boardroom gathering for the Indigenous Advisory at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. And I think the topic was around like Indigenous engagement. And I did not know Sam. It was a very large group of 30 people, 40 people in one space. And Sam kind of just leaned into the conversation with a very fierce might of, listening to Indigenous students and learners. And I remember it was like, you're sitting way down the table from me. I had to look over. I'm like, who is this girl? And I just knew we had to work together ever since. And we have.
Yeah, I remember that moment too, because there were some things that were on my heart and my mind, and I was a little afraid to share them. It can be a little intimidating as the only student representative in some of those spaces. And I remember it was Cheryl Gabriel actually that identified that there was a lot on my mind when we went into our little coffee break, and we come back and she said, "You're gonna speak." So it came about from, listening to our teachings and listening to our elders. Sometimes they volunteer us to do stuff, but I'm glad she did. So
Absolutely. And thank you so much for being our guest for today. Today's topic is on the incredible significance and value of friendship centers. So I'm wondering if you could begin by sharing with us, how have you come to know the friendship centers? Where did you encounter them? Where did you first, start that relationship?
It actually started when I was at KPU. I think this was maybe just before I met you as well. I was at my university and we took an Intro to Indigenous Studies course. It was the first one ever offered at Kwantlen Polytechnic. And it was our wonderful relative Kachina that offered that. And she really recognized that there was a difficult period in my life that I was going through. I just lost one of the real cultural ties of my family. And so I was kind of searching for answers by taking her course, learning more about our shared history, trying to figure out who I was and reconnecting and stepping into my identity. And so she really offered a lot of grace for me during that semester and really held my hand as I did that self-discovery. And once I did, I got really involved at my university. I got really involved with the Indigenous Student Services. And we had a wonderful facilitator come in who has also been a huge mentor in my life, Jessica Slater. And she came in to do an engagement with some of our Indigenous students. She came from the Friendship Center. She was working at FRAFCA at the time. And so she kind of let me know more about what FRAFCA was doing. And I was able to do Canada Summer Jobs over the summer and learn more about everything that the Friendship Center offers. And it felt really like a place I needed during that point in my life. And even though I was doing all the things, I was a floater, there wasn't one particular job title for me. I was doing prenatal, postnatal, elders lunches. I was helping with Decolonization 101, our curriculum for our youth facilitators. And ever since I got connected, it was just pedal to the metal. And we had an amazing executive director at the time, Joanne Mills, who really stepped in and noticed and that I was eager to stay engaged. And she invited me up to the board of directors as a youth advisor during that point. And I had no idea what a board meeting was, a board of directors meeting was. And I had no idea what a youth advisor was supposed to do. I'd never heard or learned about board governance until then. So I joined. I started going to meetings, and as things kind of progressed, I learned more how to use my voice and step into my leadership in that good way. So a lot of where I am today and a lot of the positions that I have really came from the shared leadership between many of my community members at Kwantlen Polytechnic and the Friendship Center. So.
Love that. Haijka. Thank you so much. As for myself, I grew up on reserve in my community of Katzie First Nation, and it wasn't until I worked in an urban setting where I really have such a gratitude and appreciation for friendship centers that they exist. And, they exist here in the Lower Mainland of BC, all across British Columbia, and all across this country, this colonial country that we live in. So I'm wondering if you can explain to our audience and our incredible humans that follow us in this podcast, what is the Friendship Center movement?
Yeah, so the Friendship Center movement is actually pretty beautiful. It's currently the largest Indigenous service providing not-for-profit network, grassroots movement in this country. We've been able just last year to service over 1 million urban Indigenous people all across this country from coast to coast to coast.
Wow. There's
over 100 friendship centers all across this country. Here in BC, we do have a good amount. We're pretty mighty over here. We've got 25 friendship centers in BC. The one that I've connected to was the Fraser Region Aboriginal Friendship Center Association, or FRAFCA. We like our acronyms in not-for-profit society. So
so true.
So we have FRAFCA, but it really was born out of necessity. We had many of our people as a result of how they experienced colonialism, whether that was through residential schools or the 60s scoop or just general displacement, for whatever reason, ended up in urban centers, disconnected from their communities, from their families, from their culture. And so this is really born as a movement of resistance, a way to reclaim and find those places of solidarity, those houses that feel supportive and loving, where we can share culture and come together, even if we don't come from the same communities. So we really owe it to a lot of our wonderful elders, our wonderful, we call them senators, our wonderful senators that really noticed and recognized that need and created friendship centers. I think, there's a lot of debate within the friendship center movement. I know some of them might be watching, but I'm from BC, so I have to say the first one was in Vancouver.
The first friendship center was here in Vancouver.
Was here in Vancouver. Well, there's some contention around which city it is, but I'm from BC, so I will say it was from Vancouver. So no, it was just an incredible movement that grew. It really started at those dinner tables, that realization of this is how we want to come together. This is what our community needs.
And roughly, like, how old are friendship centers? Like, how long have they been around roughly?
They've been around for a hot minute. They've been around for 60-ish years, 60, 70 years. Yeah. It's incredible to see just the growth that we've seen, absolutely incredible. And the services we offer too are incredible. From where we started as a little, kitchen table of let's come together and share coffee and find that solidarity in that community, to being able to offer a whole widespread of programs, everything from prenatal to end of life care in some of our friendship centers, a whole life cycle of services. We have children's programming, we have infant programming, we have parenting programs, we have housing supports, we have healthcare in some of ours. We partner with Fraser Health here at FRAFCA, so we have a Indigenous clinic here. Just a whole widespread. I know I'm definitely missing some other ones. Elder support, youth leadership. We have support for people who are looking to be on their wellness journey. Once again, harm reduction, outreach, food hampers, back to school programs, Christmas hampers, absolutely everything. Like, our friendship centers really are essential services. And we know this. This is a reality because we've seen, especially throughout COVID, through the pandemic, many friendship centers were the only not-for-profits that were able to keep their doors open. Here in FRAFCA, we were one of the only not-for-profits that were able to keep their doors open and continue providing those food and that connection in Zoom for our community members. So we know that the Friendship Center movement has purpose, and we know the impact that it has, and at least for our community members. And, yeah.
Absolutely, and so needed because the vast majority of the Indigenous population are in the urban environment. Yes. I think it's 60% roughly.
I think it was 70%.
70% are not in reserves or, reserve locations. We are in urban environments. Yes. So needed. I love following you on social media and your journeys of holding space, advocating, and representing. And in the Friendship Center movement, you are a leader, a youth leader and a youth voice on a national platform. And just recently, I've seen on an international level as well. I'm wondering if you can share with us, your experience of being a youth leader, what that's like to stand up as a youth voice in a leadership capacity to advocate and represent for youth needs at Friendship Centers.
Yeah. So I kind of stumbled into this work. You don't ever really choose a lot of the work that you do as an advocate. It kind of just comes from a very strong sense of wanting to support and give back to the community that's given you so much. And I think that's where I started, was I wanted to ensure that in many of the spaces that I was in that weren't friendship centers, weren't always the safest for our Indigenous youth. And so I really wanted to do what I could as, even if it's just using my voice, to ensure that no one had to feel the same way that I did in some of those really closed-minded spaces. So I kind of just realized that using my voice, even if it's just to share my story, still had the ability to impact people's and influence people's decisions, and hopefully opening up to them to those really courageous conversations that need to happen around supporting and being supportive of Indigenous youth. Yeah, I guess I didn't really share about my other positions either. I'm the youth advisor to the Fraser Region Aboriginal Friendship Centre Association, and I'm also the national youth executive with the National Association of Friendship Centres. I kind of made this weird progression where I started locally, I went provincially with the BC Association of Friendship Centres, and now nationally in my second term. With support of the Friendship Center movement, which means the world to me to be able to do this work and feel those moments of trust from community as well, ensuring and reminding me of doing that good work. And I hope to continue carrying that in a really good and humble way, which is why I love talking about how incredible the Friendship Centers are. Through that, I've been able to kind of expand on my leadership a bit as well. And the NAFC has invited me to go with them to some United Nations events, which has kind of been my dream. I'm a political science nerd, and so I graduated from Kwantlen with a degree in political science, and learning about the United Nations and being at the United Nations are definitely two separate things. You get to see behind the veil a bit more, but I was able to engage at the United Nations at several wonderful events around the Commission on the Status of Women, the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, ECOSOC Youth Forum, some just incredible opportunities to engage, and even more recently, and with your support, the negotiations on the world's first plastics treaty to reduce and hopefully eliminate harmful plastic pollution. So through all of that engagement, I was able to connect with the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus and the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on Plastics, and kind of learn more about what leadership looks like at an international level. So even though I'm able to be on some of those incredible stages, I always think of, think global, but act local. Every time I'm there, I'm always thinking, how can I bring this back to the Friendship Center movement? How can we have a bigger impact and influence on these major discussions that continue to impact our people? So I know there's some contention within Indigenous communities around engaging with colonial structures and colonial governance. But the way I've always seen it is these decisions and these policies impact us whether we're there or not. So we may as well have some choice and influence how those engage with us and how we want to be represented. So.
Oh, incredible. Now our audience can get a sense of why we wanted to sit and chat with you. Your incredible experience and just the way you hold space as well. I just love following your work on social media and seeing you standing with all the international flags outside of the UN. I'm like, wow, just such incredible work and needed work. And I love how you stay grounded too. And I got to quote you on that: think globally but act locally, and how you just how you ground yourself, and always coming back to how you bring this back to the friendship centers. When it comes to friendship centers, and if you think of our audience who listen to these podcast episodes, culture, community access comes up in our training sessions all the time. And I know you facilitate a lot of workshops with LPC. For non-Indigenous folks, if they have questions about friendship centers, if they're worried, I know a lot of non-Indigenous peoples have children that might be in foster care, or Indigenous peoples in their life, whether they're connected by friends or family, who want access to community, who want access to culture. Do you have any advice or tips for non-Indigenous folks when it comes to accessing or learning more about the friendship centers?
I would say we're called friendship centers for a reason. We always offer that wonderful hand of friendship. So friendship centers also aren't Indigenous exclusive. We do primarily operate and offer support to Indigenous people, but we never close our doors to anyone. So we actually often have lots of allies that come in and volunteer with us, but also throughout many of our community events. I always say if it's on Facebook and you can see it, you're invited to attend. I know many friendship centers are great, especially during this month of September. in supporting Orange Shirt Day or Truth and Reconciliation events. So there's always opportunities to get involved, even if that's influencing your organizations or your foundations to maybe donate to some wonderful programs that we offer. Friendship centers are no different than any other not-for-profit. Many of our friendship centers operate mostly off of grants. So always funding is always a big tool to support. Many friendship centers, FRAFCA included, will have wonderful fundraising galas. So I would encourage you to just stay involved. Often we'll be on social media, and if you have any other questions, don't be shy. There are many friendship centers that have wonderful admin, wonderful receptionists that are happy to connect you with the programs you're looking to be connected with. And if you're still up in the air of how do I connect with our friendship centers, know that I'm always happy to be a resource and a touch point for that as well. There's so many incredible programs that many of our friendship centers do, very innovative things that our friendship centers are doing too. I always have to give a shout out to our wonderful relatives in Quebec too, that are really leading in that social innovation aspect when it comes to ensuring that our friendship centers have the supports that they need in the face of the insecurity that we're in right now with grants and budget cuts. They've been able to find an incredible way to have a hotel that offers that good stream of revenue back to the movement. So, we will always find a way. Life finds a way. And aunties will find a way in the urban centers.
Yes.
So, just look to stay involved and don't be afraid to reach out. We don't bite. So
we love that. We don't bite. So I love that, for non-Indigenous, community members, allies who are following our work, don't be shy. You don't need to be Indigenous to walk into Indigenous spaces and volunteer, ask for, more information, more knowledge, more resources, and ask the question, how can you help? How can you get involved? How can you support the incredible movement that's happening across this country? So my dear friend, and if folks do want to check in and follow you and follow your work, you're available on
LinkedIn. You can just look me up, and Instagram. If you follow Len, and that's how you're able to see this, you'll probably be able to see me. I'm just Samantha Jack. It's pretty standard.
Yes, absolutely. Haichka Siam, thank you so much to my dear friend, colleague, cousin, sister, Samantha. Thank you so much. This has been a very rich and valuable discussion, and I raise my hands to you, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here. Thank you, everybody.